Hi, folks. Welcome to this edition of Hope on Wheels. My name is Travis. The first thing I'm going to do in this video is say a thank you to my 3 new subscribers that I have on my channel. I got notified a couple weeks or last week that I had new subscribers. So, to those people, I want to say this. If you're not very familiar with what my channel is all about, I'm not going to go into a huge, long-winded detail because I don't want to make this video ultra long. But for those of you that are new, if you get a chance, go back to the beginning of my channel, which there's a very first video with my intro on it. Honestly, I just got told by my analytics yesterday that is my most heavy viewed video at this point. So that video goes into kind of what the idea of the channel was. But in a real short nutshell, the idea is to try to give people hope, give people advice on how to live a better life when you have a disability. Or as I like to refer to it, as a challenge for those of you who just became part of my channel, but also to give hope and advice to guardians of individuals with disabilities, and try to make things better for everyone. Now, the main topic of this video isn't even that. It's throughout the past couple of years, but especially now, as in during the situation we find ourselves in, I've noticed something on YouTube. And this is not a criticism to YouTubers or to YouTube itself. So if anybody that monitors YouTube for Google is watching this, please don't think that that's my intention here. But I've noticed that when you are talking about things with, for people with a variety of disabilities, whether it be somebody that was born with a developmental disability or developmental challenge, as I refer to it, or a cognitive limitation, I guess is the word that most people would refer to that as, because I don't have a cognitive one myself, so that's not something that I refer to that much. But anyway, either way, I've noticed with YouTube that they don't talk about, they don't have a lot of new videos that talk about new technologies that come out to help people. Well, this video is going to be about me and my experience with something. In particularly, I have 2 robots from the company called iRobot. The iRobot company produces what's called the Roomba, and that is a vacuum. The iRobot company also produces something called the Brava, and that is their robot mop. I have both. I got lucky enough to have a care coordinator that is extremely savvy when it comes to technology. She's not uncomfortable with it, and I'll say this out loud because I know she's one of my subscribers. Thanks, Stephanie, for helping me get the grant to get those 2 items, because I wouldn't even be able to do a video about this had you not helped me with that to begin with. So I owe you. Now, the reason I bring up those 2 items in particular is because not just for people with disabilities, but especially people who are elderly as well. Uh, these things can be hugely helpful. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say they aren't expensive because that I'd be lying to you. They are. Even for me, I had to get a grant in order to afford getting them because you combine the two items and it was like $1,300 for both items, and that's not counting, some of the accessories that I had to order over time to be able to use them effectively. But unfortunately, I'm just going to talk about these items. I don't have a camera that I can really display what these items do. Not that you need me to do that. A lot of YouTubers have created videos on those particular products. I will say for me, I have the Roomba S9 Plus version, and there's a Roomba 9, but the S9 Plus is the top of the line one. There's a Roomba 7i. The S9 has a few extra features that I really wanted in mine. A little bit more sensing capability where dirt and fur stuff is. Matter of fact, the S9, I have a dog, so the S9 was more of a pet-friendly vacuum. In other words, it did better with pet hair from all the reviews that I read than the i7 does. I have not used the i7. I'm just telling you that, that's an example of why I wanted the S9, is I have a dog and I really wanted something that was going to be able to handle vacuuming up pet hair fairly easily and help me keep the place clean in that regard alone. Now, it does a better job with other things too, crumbs all over the floor, things like that. It does pick those up. So I'm not saying it's not good for other things, but for me personally, the reason I got it was I really wanted something to help me deal with all the pet hair, because I didn't like, for those of you that are new, I live in a group home. And I don't like having to rely on my staff to clean up my place for me. They're willing to help me, but I believe in being as independent as possible. And I hated always having to ask my staff to be able to do something for me like that. So I've wanted a Roomba vacuum forever. But another reason I didn't initially get one was because you had to empty out the bin when it was done yourself. The initial Roombas had a charging station just like mine does, but you had to empty out the bin by hand. You had to go down on the ground, grab the Roomba, grab the bin, pull it off the machine, and then dump it out and put the bin back in. For me, what's the purpose of having a Roomba if I got to get my staff all the time to empty the bin? The step didn't make any sense. The Roomba S9, now the i7 does this as well. Again, very similar models here. It's just the S7 does better, or the S9 does better with pet hair than the i7 does. At least that's what I was told. So for me, that was a selling point. But the i7 and the S9 both have what's called a docking station with an extractor system. Basically, all that is when the robot docks on it to charge, before it starts charging, after you run it, the docking station turns into a kind of a vacuuming system of its own, and connects to the bin because of how the dock is set up, and sucks out the bin. In other words, it empties the bin for you into a collection bag that's in the top of the docking station. And depending upon how much you vacuum and how much you accumulate, You don't need to change that bag that often. But anyway, I really like that. Now, the Brava M6, which is the robot mop, works very, very similarly. There's a tank on it. The only downside with that tank is you have to fill it up with about a quarter amount of water and then about the same in cleaning fluid. You put the tank back in the robot and you can run the machine. It'll mop the house, whole 9 yards. Now there is a downside to that. Like I said, the tank has to be constantly refilled, which I can't do. I have to get the staff to do it because the mop is too low to the ground for me to be able to grab it and put the tank back in accurately, all that stuff. But I can choose when I mop the house. I can keep up with it. Now, there is another downside slightly. The mop you get some pads with it, okay? Some pads are for mopping functions and some are for dry cleaning. In other words, they don't use any fluid when it cleans. It just kind of goes into a sweeping mode and just sweeps the house up. Both functions are fantastic. I've used both, and they're great. The nice thing about the robot is, though, it senses which type of pad you would put on the robot. So it'll know whether it can do a dry clean or it can go into wet clean mode. Now, the thing with that, though, is you have to take the pads off as well as refill the tank or have your staff help you and then run the robot. Here's what I would tell you. Yes, you're still going to need support to do that, but think about, you can choose when you mop. You can choose how many rooms you mop, that sort of thing. Now, what I can't show you, because again, I don't have a way of doing this very well. I tried filming me using the app, and unfortunately, it comes up as a very bright screen on my computer. I can't show the actual app very well. It doesn't come through on the screen. So, what I'll tell you is this. Each time you get one of these robots, whether you get one to start or you get both, you get multiple functions. One, both the robots that I mentioned, you have an app. And the i7 works with the app as well. The lower models usually don't. i7 up will permanently work with an app. It maps out the whole house as it goes, or at least the floor that it's on. Myself, I live in an entirely one floor place, so it mapped out every room. You can go into the map and designate names for each room, add barriers of where you don't want it to go, where you want the item to go, for both the mop and the vacuum. In other words, like with the vacuum, I have a steel pan in my shower. Well, every time it was going in there, because the floor never fully dries all the way out, because it's a shower stall. It's not like gonna kill you if you walk in there with shoes and whatnot, or even if you don't, and you're not gonna slip and fall because it does dry out, but not all the way. The wheels of the vacuum would constantly get stuck in a certain spot and keep spinning because it couldn't get past it. Well, they put a function in the apps of a barrier zone, which means once you put it on the map, after you've designated what's your shower, what's your bathroom, you can put a red zone over top of the shower and the Roomba will never go in that red zone. Basically, you programmed it. Okay, here's the shower. Don't go in it. It's real easy. It's drag and drop with the app. Um, I use the app all the time to vacuum my place with the Roomba. Same with the Brava, because especially with me working from home right now, I want to vacuum my entire place, but I can't. They really recommend that when you vacuum or you mop, you're not here. That's kind of what the benefit of these machines are, unless you're only doing a room to room. And because I can't leave because of the situation everybody's dealing with around the entire planet, usually what I'll do is while I'm eating breakfast or something, very first thing in the morning, I'll tell it clean the closet, clean the bedroom, clean the bathroom with the Roomba. And then it'll dock when those areas that I've selected are done, get cleaned out. When I'm done and ready to come into my bedroom to do some work, I'll tell it clean the hallway, clean the family hallway, clean the living room, clean the kitchen, and clean the entryway. So, in other words, it's already done the back of the house because I've already had it run. Now I'm telling it do the front of my house, do every room that's in the front of my house. And I'm not in its way, and it can do what it needs to do. I love it because while I'm working, my house is getting cleaned, and I'm not having to worry about what's all over the place. So that's fantastic as far as I'm concerned. The other thing that's nice is you can set schedules too. Like, if you know there are certain days of the week you're not going to be home and you're out of its way, you can tell it only vacuum on these days, only mop on these days, same with mop. You can schedule out what days and what rooms even. If you don't want the whole place done, you can tell it, on this day I want you to mop the kitchen, I want you to mop the bathroom. On this day I want you to vacuum the living room and vacuum the entryway, but on this day I want you to do the bedrooms and everything else at whatever sequence you want. You can designate all that, program that in, and the robots will automatically do that on those days for you. You don't even have to remember that you did it. The two things that I did that have really worked out well for me is I bought reusable pads for the Brava. And what I mean by reusable is the pads that it comes with are use them once, take them off the machine, and throw them away. Well, if you keep using those pads, you're going to spend so much money on pads that, in my personal opinion, especially if you're helping somebody with a disability obtain these and they live in a assisted living situation, most of us, again, are on a fixed income. Well, that's kind of pointless when you're constantly having to spend money on something that you bought to make independence. Well, yeah, you can order the disposable ones off Roomba or the iRobot website or Amazon. Amazon sells those as well. Or you can buy the reusable ones. Again, same two places. I bought a huge pack of reusable ones. It came with a bunch of mopping pads and a bunch of sweeping pads. The nice part about the mopping pads and the sweeping pads for reusable is you use them till they get really filthy and need to be cleaned. You take them off the machine, you throw them in the washer, run it in the washer. Do not stick them in the dryer, otherwise they'll get ruined. You run them in the wash by themselves is my recommendation. It's what I've figured out's the best option for them. You run them in the wash, then you let them air dry. Then you can put them back on the machine if that's what you want to do and run it. Now, with me, I also, on Amazon, again, the iRobot company sells the accessories so you can buy everything from them if you want. I don't recommend that, personal opinion. Let me be clear, that's me personally. The reason I don't recommend that is some of their stuff off the iRobot website, it's all there, but they want a lot more money. I buy a lot of the accessories for both machines off Amazon, and it's significantly cheaper through Amazon than it is to go any other way. There is something else I'm going to mention. With the Braava, they give you cleaning fluid, okay? You do not want to put anything other than that brand of cleaning fluid in the Braava. If you do, and I researched the heck out of this to learn this one, I never did it. It still works fine, but I learned very quickly from other YouTubers that have done this, that it will ruin the machines, and then all that money you spent to get grants to do this, kind of a problem. Doesn't work in your favor then. So don't use anything but that cleaner. However, you can buy like 3 bottles of that cleaner for probably $13 is what I spent last time. And the bottles are huge. So 3 bottles of that stuff will last you a while as long as you're not mopping like every other day. You can, if you want. I don't recommend it. But, you know, my place gets a lot of traffic, but it's either me or my dog. So I know kind of how much I need to mop and how much I need to vacuum. If you need to do that more, then you can order more, obviously. The last thing I will say is this. If you have a Google Home or a Echo system, I'm not going to say the actual name that it goes by, because otherwise it'll go off on my computer, on my tablet, and everywhere else in the house, and I've got a bunch. You can verbally tell it which rooms or whether you want the whole space. Now, here's the thing that is really cool. If you're not going to be home a while, you can start the vacuum. And if you've got the vacuum and the mop, okay, you can start the vacuum, and then you can tell your robot mop, as soon as all the vacuuming is done, to mop either the designated areas or the whole space automatically. I mean, you can even do that with the app. You don't have to do it with the Echo. The point is, with the Echoes or the Google Assistant, if you don't have dexterity very well, you can still control it yourself via those systems. I do have dexterity issues, and sometimes I find it faster to just say verbally what I want done. However, sometimes that system doesn't work very well, and it's faster to use the app. It just depends on my circumstances. But those are some key features that I love about both of those. The bigger thing, though, is, like I said, level of independence. I don't have to rely on my staff for very much to keep my house clean anymore. I used to have to call them in all the time to clean my house. Now I don't, because the 2 robots help me take care of that on my own. You will have problems with the robots at some point. I've used customer service to take care of some of the problems that have come up. Like my robot's mop's tank for the liquid went bad. I've already got a new tank on the way, and I just ordered the tank a few days ago, and it's supposed to actually be here today. So the lady I spoke to with customer service did say sometimes those tanks don't last long because they're defective. They pump out so many of these machines. It does happen, but they're very courteous. They're very good customer service. They care. The app went down for 2 days For me, I couldn't vacuum or mop because then the app wasn't working at all. And then I finally called to ask, what do I do? And they said, oh, it's a nationwide problem. It's all over the place. We're getting calls from every state saying that the app isn't working. And they fixed it and sent an email saying app is now fixed. So they are a very responsive company. I know somebody's going to say, well, why did you say the bad stuff? Because you need to know this is technology. It's going to go bad on you. It's not perfect. But it's worth considering options. If any of you that watch this video have any questions or want to ask me anything, you can either leave them down in the comments down below, and I'll do my best to answer them in another video for you, or you can reach me at tnoah, TNOAH, at Hope Alaska, HOPEALASKA.org. Now, the thing I'll say with that email address is that it's all lowercase. I hope this video helps. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.